Hello, everybody. All right. So I hope everybody had a good weekend this week. I hope some of you had a chance to catch the show last night. We were talking a little bit about, of course, you know, as we concluded our look at comics that went on sale in 1939. We're looking at the just how the comic industry grew between 38 and 39. We saw that. If those of you who may have seen the show last night, um, talking about how comic publications went basically doubled that year. You went from 8 companies publishing 24 books to 17 publishing 48. So nine companies came into existence in 1939, and another 24 books were added to 24 that were already being published. So um, overall, so as we just wait for a few minutes to give people a chance to come in. Programming note, of course, this week we're only going to be broadcasting up through Wednesday this week. Um, no historical comic retrospect this week. However, we will be back to full force next week. It's of course next Friday, December the 1st. RJ Carter from Critical Blast will be joining me as we will be starting up our coverage of January 1940. And we'll look ahead to what we can expect from 1940. Of course, we kind of alluded to some of the things like the premiere, the debut issue of Batman. I mean, issue one come up at some point in the year. We'll see how many more companies come into existence in 1940. Um, let's see. And of course, we'll be reading some. We'll be reading some. We'll be reading some comics there as well. DC, obviously. Okay, so let's see. What's your favorite Gorgon? I don't know if I have a specific favorite Gorgon. I don't know if anybody has one. um, what's your favorite 2006 anime? Hard to say because you know, again, don't really remember a lot of them that came out in 2006. So, off the top of my head, anyways. Okay, what's your favorite Egyptian mythology? Don't really have one. So, anyways, now we got some people in here. So, why don't we go ahead and talk about? Okay, yeah, let's see. Explain your favorite 1980s cartoons. Um, well, obviously I grew up on GI Joe and Transformers, G1 Transformers. Uh, Super Friends are still even though technically Super Friends started in the 70s, they still had a couple of shows in the 80s like the legendary Superpower Team, Super Friends Galactic, or even the 1980s Super Friends cartoon. So, anyways, as always, guys, if you haven't already, you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage in here. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So with that, now that let me talk about what's on tap for tonight. We're going to go over a couple articles from Bleeding Fool tonight. One of them about an Iowa soldier coming out with a comic book on the experiences of veterans. Also, we're going to look at Avi Green's perspective on the um, whole idea of demonizing Comicsgate to boost sales of DC gay Green Lantern. So we of course had talked about it from some of the guys at Bounding in the Comics a couple weeks ago. So now Avi is obviously taking his shot at it, as it were. So with that, why don't we go ahead and and of course we'll have, of course, the wrestling wrap up, as well as, as of course we know that WWE will have its Survivor Series event this weekend. We'll look at what's going to be going on Raw tonight. We'll be talking a little bit about what happened at Full Gear from AEW, some Ring of Honor news, and then of course we'll be getting into this day and age history. So with that, why don't we go ahead and go ahead and start? We go ahead and going on our get to the articles here. Alrighty then. So first article we're gonna go over tonight here. Iowa soldier creates comic on the realities U.S. veterans deal with. Article by Avi Green, published yesterday, or some from Sensual Studios. Regicide Havoc. Right, so ABC TV's KCRG did a report about a mid-20s military official from Des Moines, Iowa, who's producing a comic about the experiences of veterans. So now we're going to get into that report. So now all the commentary, all the things we'll be reading here are from the report that Avi is reporting on. Basi Afia has been a fan of comic books since he was a kid. Now, the 26-year-old soldier is using his creative gifts and unique experience to share the perspective of veterans through his own comics, KCCI reported. Quote, "Me being a nerd is how it came to be," unquote, said Afia, founder and owner of Sensual Studios, Iowa's first black-owned comic book company. All right. Avia serves in the Iowa National Guard. In his latest comic book, quote, Regicide Havoc, unquote, the main character is a veteran. All right. So Avia said he wants veterans to be able to see themselves in his book. The storyline centers around veterans' view of their time while serving. Something Avia said can affect their lives after their time in active duty. And it's good that he's just making it more of a general thing and not like they're saying that black-owned comics, which I don't have a problem with that. I'm just glad that he's just making it more of a generalized story, though. It says veterans, not like black veterans or like piecing it all out like that. Anyways, quote, it just talks about a lot of veteran issues, like veteran homelessness, talks about the different experiences that soldiers have in the military, unquote, Afia said. Quote, I think it should be more truthful, more realistic. It's not always positive. It's not always negative. There's a happy space right in the middle. And that's where the truth is at, unquote, Afia said. Now getting back to, this one was a lot quicker than I thought it was gonna be. Whoa, this is real quick. I thought, I knew it was gonna be a quickie, but I didn't think it would be that quick. Obviously and fortunately, there are positive moments to serving in the military, and this comic will hopefully provide a good perspective, much needed in an era where there's too little heroism emphasized. True enough. A lot of things about this era that I think a lot of us there's a lot of things about this era that we're talking about here that I think a lot of us kind of wish we could fix. Right? That's a pretty quick article. Now, this one should probably take us a little longer because everybody who's reported on this had quite a bit to say about it. And I know Avi is probably no different. Uh, all right, so here we go. Let's get into this article now. Demonizing Comicsgate failed to boost sales for DC's gay Green Lantern. Now, just as a reminder to everybody, in case you missed it, what we're talking about here is Tim Sheridan, the writer of the latest Green Lantern story, in which the story revolves around J. Edgar Hoover blackmailing Alan Scott into gay sex. Okay. Trying to push the whole, Alan Scott, even though everybody who knows the history knows that is not true. But, again, and of course, if you all remember, Tim Sheridan was basically begging people to buy the book. Begging people to buy the book to stick it to Comicsgate, right? You all remember that, right? And we've already talked about how that hasn't worked. And now we're going to get Avi's perspective on that. So, article by Avi Green published earlier today. And we can skip that picture. Nobody wants to see that. Warner Todd Hudson at Breitbart tells how DC's forced retcon to Golden Age Green Lantern Alan Scott has tanked in its latest series incarnation. So Breitbart's even talking about this. Breitbart is normally a political site, but but as with a lot of things, they'll probably touch upon pop culture here and there. So now this is from the Breitbart article that Avi will be referencing here. So let's get into this then. So last month, comic book writer Tim Sheridan jumped to his social media to urge his fans to go out en masse and buy his reboot of the Green Lantern story, which features pages of gay sex between the title character and his boyfriend. But it looks like the scribe's efforts fell on deaf ears, as his Alan Scott Green Lantern #1 has landed with a thud with few sales. Oh boy, how apropos. Thud. Down, 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 gravity. Going down, down, down. All right, let's see if anybody, as I said, anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. All right, anyways. Let's get back to this then. As always, guys, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Oh, writer Sheridan warned his followers that, quote, haters and the queerphobes are out in force, unquote, ahead of the book's October 24th debut, and he urged them all to do him a, quote unquote, favor and buy up copies of his gay-themed superhero series. Naturally, Sheridan restricted comments on his X post. Yeah, because he's afraid of legit. He actually, what he actually doesn't realize that most fans don't want to read that kind of stuff, and even the ones that do don't want to buy it. But it seems as though Sheridan doesn't have as many fans as he hoped, because so far, issue number 1 of Green Lantern has thoroughly tanked Bounding into Comics reports. I guess it's still from the Breitbart article. It appears that few want to see the big gay Green Lantern reboot to date. The book did not appear in the top 50 selling books. That's based on a site, I think it's called LBC2 or something like that. Worse, it is ranked 25,763rd in the Kindle store and 170, number 170 for superhero comics and so there were actually well over 25,000 books, more other books that people would rather read. Okay, at least according to the Kindle store, there are apparently 25,752 books that people would rather read than Alan Scott Green Lantern number 1. Oh boy. Let's see if anybody's. Yeah, okay. The new book engages in a lot of anti-Americanism too. Back in the day, the Green Lantern character was an important part of the Justice Society of America. Yeah, in fact, for one issue of All-Star Comics, right? Before he actually got his own series, Alan Scott actually did serve as chairman of the Justice Society following the Flash's exit when he got his own series, and then he was chairman for one series, for one issue, got his own series, and then Hawkman took over as chairman. A comic book staple of patriotic American superheroes fighting to defeat Hitler in World War II. But in this new tale, the JSA turns out to be a shill effort spearheaded by FBI villain J. Edgar Hoover, and at first Alan Scott does not want to join the group because he feels it is just a jingoist propaganda operation for the USA. Hoover tries to force Scott into a sexual encounter and informs Scott that he has photos of a gay tryst featuring Scott, so he better join the JSA or risk being exposed to the world as a gay man. Yeah. And you notice how a lot of these people approach this, right? Now, they make it sound like queer voters because they don't want to be reading this stuff. But the thing is, they're the ones who are acting militant here. People like Sheridan, who are the ones who are really acting militant. Having the FBI head of the FBI force somebody into gay sex. I mean, come on. Sheridan should be ashamed of himself, as should DC's editor, Marie Jarvins, for perpetuating this atrocity that first began under her predecessor, Dan Didio. In 2012, speaking of which, BIs are bounding in the comments, also recently reported that Larry Hama and Mark Wade, leftists as they are, were blacklisted by equally leftist Didio in past years. Curious they don't mention Chuck Dixon, however, because he too was ultimately blacklisted along with them. I guess when you're a rightist, it doesn't count, huh? The current situation is definitely bad, but it's also vital to recall where it all began nearly a dozen years ago, and now modern ideologues like Mr. Sheridan have continued making everything worse, along with Ms. Javins. Um, Thankfully, as of today, more audiences are voting with their wallets and not wasting money on some of the worst woke changes to classic characters that have been foisted upon everyone since the turn of the century. Now, if you love the classic characters and you want to learn more about the classic characters and how they were originally intended to be portrayed, come here every Friday night for a historical comic retrospect. Look back at how a lot of these characters really developed and what they really were to be. Right? Anyways, man, those two stories went very quickly. Let me see. I guess maybe I should see if I can try to find another article, maybe. Let me see now. Should at least try to find at least one more. Those two both went very quickly here. First, go back to just make sure that there isn't anything new. Nope. Okay, so there's nothing new there. So see what they might have in the realm of movies, TV, and streaming. See if there's a there of interest that we can maybe sink our teeth into. This one looks interesting. Let's take a look at this article here. Max renews raunchy, violent Harley Quinn animated series for season 5. Article by Jameson Ashley, published today. So there's, I guess, the modern Harley and Ivy. Right. So in a decision that surprised no one, Max has renewed raunchy, violent animated series Harley Quinn for season 5, just a couple months after season 4 finished its run. The animated DC show, starring Kaylee Cuoco as Harley Quinn and Lake Bell as Poison Ivy as the central characters and lesbian couple, has proven to be a hit for Max. The show even has its own spin-off, Kite Man Hell Yeah, coming in 2024. Harley Quinn, quote unquote, Harley Quinn has raised the comedic crowbar with every new season. We're excited to continue the partnership with Max and take our biggest swing yet for season 5. Unquote. Peter Girardi, executive vice president of alternative programming at Warner Brothers Animation, said in a statement. In season 4, Harley began working with the Bat family, including Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl, while Ivy assumed her new role as the CEO of the Legion of Doom. As Harley started to embrace her more heroic endeavors, she and Ivy butted heads in their relationship. But by the end, the two resolved their differences and teamed up with Batgirl and Catwoman to form the Gotham City Sirens in the finale. I know that one. Wow, Counting the Cons coming in with some quickies this time around. They usually have a little bit more meat to them. Hey, Metal. Thanks for dropping in. If you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here. That would be great. Yeah. So, anyways, as we will look for some more, because at this point we're just going to. I didn't even realize that I didn't even put that up. I was just, right. So I should probably remember to keep that up there. And all right. So at least there's. And let's see what else we can find here. Okay, where are we at? We're not even at the 30-minute mark yet, so try to find one more thing to go over here, and then let's see. So movies and TV, and then now what we may have here. All right. So it look like, but then again, we're around the holiday time of the year, so I know that basically, things are kind of at a slow point. But if there's anything you guys want to ask or talk about, feel free to mention anything. Metal, I know you missed out last night on our conversation, but we were talking last night about the comparative, comparing, sales, comic book publishing from 1930 to 1939. They're taking note of the fact that the industry pretty much doubled its production in 1939, with 9 new companies publishing 24 more books after, having 8 companies publish 24 in 1938. So, anyways, let's see. And I also know that MeTV is having some pretty interesting stuff going on for the Very Merry MeTV season, presentations. Yesterday they had a boy named Charlie Brown on, and then this Sunday they're going to have on Snoopy Come Home. So they plan for a lot of holiday specials and coming up. So let me look something else up here real quick. See if I can see what else may be coming down the pike here. I don't know if just simply trying to see if there's. So I hope everybody's getting ready for have a nice Thanksgiving with their families this week. Again, another reminder: we won't be broadcasting on Thursday or Friday this week. So hope to see everybody back here on all 3 nights here that we are tonight, tomorrow night, and Wednesday. Let me see. Let me see. I'm just looking to see if there's anything of note from. So recently, Demon Slayer commenced. They started their the Mugen Train arc, the dub version of that on Toonami. It doesn't look like they have anything planned for that. So, anyways, So I'm going to move on then to the, unless you guys have anything want to ask or talk about, I think I'm going to move on to the wrestling wrap up here. We do have quite a bit of wrestling news to go over, unless you guys want to ask or talk about something. Apparently, Thanksgiving isn't a thing anymore. I've already been hearing Christmas music all. Yeah, well, yeah, same around here. It's kind of funny because when I go out, when I walk to the store and all that, I see the same thing. I see that same thing. Everybody's already gearing up for Christmas. You know, um, don't really hear too. Like I know I passed by one apartment. The guy's got his Christmas tree up already, and I mean it's been up for the last couple weeks here already. So I mean, you know. Now, I do remember that, of course, Yogi's First Christmas debuted on November 26, 1980, as a day, I think the day after Thanksgiving. But yeah, it does seem like the holiday that people are starting the holidays earlier and earlier. I mean, it even goes back to Halloween too. People are already putting stuff up for Halloween in the middle of September. Like 6 weeks ahead of when it was coming. So I mean, this goes to show you, Um, but anyways, yeah. So let me. So on the WWE news, so there's already talk that Roman Reigns' schedule is further getting reduced as he's not being promoted for some of the PLEs that will be happening in Europe next year. Um, let me see. Anyways, among other things, as WWE does prepare for its survivors now, it was already stated that Roman Reigns was not going to be was basically taking the rest of the year off, basically, even though he is currently the unified WWE champion right now. So, anyways, as the WWE will be holding its Monday Night Raw event from Grand Rapids, Michigan tonight. This is the go home Raw before this weekend's Survivor Series. As 1 week, a festival holiday should only be up to 1 week. Yeah. Okay. Traditionally, Christmas they do it for a month, or they start up maybe just after Thanksgiving. But yeah, I think sometimes certain holidays, it is a little much to be doing them a month, 2 months in advance. You know, um, that is a little crazy. Of course, in my opinion. But anyways, but because I mean, you look at December. Traditionally, we've had a number of great holiday, Christmas holiday classics, right? Like my favorite being Yogi's First Christmas, but you also have like a Charlie Brown Christmas. The Flintstones have had a number of very good Christmas specials, and of course, one of the things we kind of talked about a little bit on last night's show too is how there have been numerous adaptations of A Christmas Carol over the years, including, of course, Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, Flintstones Christmas Carol. Disney's done some, adaptations of it as well. Mickey Mouse's Christmas Carol. So some other classics that maybe don't get talked about as much include, of course, Santa and the Three Bears from 1971. I remember watching that a lot growing up. There is something very nice and sweet about that particular special. Let's see. Hanukkah is the longest I want any festival to last. Yeah. Well, Hanukkah lasts for 8 days, so yeah, so yeah, but anyways, getting back to the wrestling wrap up here a bit. And I will continue to answer questions if they come up, of course. But on tonight, on the go home, we'll probably go over the results tomorrow as well. Talk about what happened on tonight's Raws. This is, as I said, the go home Raw before this Saturday's Survivor Series. Yeah, Becky Lynch taking on Xia Li. Becky Lynch is part of the face team to take on Damage Control in the women's War Games match. The women's War Games match right now has all 5 members of Damage Control: Bayley, SmackDown Women's Champion, Io Sky, Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kyrie, the recently returned Kyrie Sane. They'll be on one team, while on the opposing team thus far is Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Shotzi, and Bianca Belair. I think there's still a 5th member to be determined. Yeah. Let's see now. Also, you'll have Nia Jax taking on Raquel Rodriguez, and Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Chad Gable of Alpha Academy. So those are the matches thus far announced for tonight, as this will be the go-home Raw before this weekend Survivor Series. So with that, they'll be doing a lot of prep work for that. We'll be talking more about the results and stuff for that tomorrow. Now that we've done some looking ahead, now we can look back a little bit. As from this Saturday, AEW had its Full Gear pay-per-view for their pre-show, the 0-hour pre-show. Eddie Kingston successfully defended the Ring of Honor world title against Jay Lethal, and it was also announced that AEW starting this week, I believe, they'll be having the Continental Classic, and with that apparently going to be some kind of points-based round robin tournament in which both of Eddie Kingston's titles, the Ring of Honor world title and the New Japan Strong Openweight title, will be kind of up for grabs for that, in conjunction with another newly created title from AEW, the Continental title. These 3 titles will be forming AEW's Triple Crown, kind of in the same vein that All Japan formed their Triple Crown championship back in the late 80s there. But Eddie Kingston retained the world title over that. Claudio Castagnoli of the Blackpool Combat Club defeated Buddy Matthews of the House of Black, and then MJF picked Samoa Joe as a replacement for Adam Cole as his tag partner to retain the world tag title shot against the Guns, with Joe getting as since he did pick him, since that with MJF agreeing to give Joe a title shot in the future, another title shot, the AEW World Title. Now, for the for of course the the main pay-per-view, the Full Gear pay-per-view. For the Full Gear pay-per-view, all that happened. Let's see. Adam Copeland, Darby Allin, and Sting, with Ric Flair in their corner, defeated the faction known now as the Patriarchy of Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. An interesting little tidbit happened here. Christian Cage, instead of being Captain Charisma, played out to be Captain Coward, left his two teammates in to basically take the fall against Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland. Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge. Orange Cassidy, with Hook in his corner, retained the international title over Jon Moxley, with who had Wheeler Yuta in his corner. Toni Storm defeated Hikaru Shida to become the new women's world title holder. The match that basically saw, in a match that apparently saw Toni Storm in this whole timeless Toni Storm, classic Hollywood look thing going, deciding to stick a cooking sheet into her tights, using it with her hip attack to knock out Shida for the title. And apparently there was a bit of a botch in this, in that apparently part of the cooking sheet was sticking out of her trunks. So the fact that the ref didn't see it, really made a lot of fans call it out. Again, I'm not necessarily, I get, obviously want to even out the titles, but I just didn't like that. But anyways, Big Bill and Ricky Starks retained the AEW World Tag Title in a 4-way ladder match, defeating, of course, the other two members of the House of Black, Kings of the Black Throne, Brody King and Malachi Black, Delistico and Rush of the La Facción Ingobernable, and FTR, the former champs. Julia Hart outlasted champion Chris Statlander and Sky Blue to become the new TBS champion. Swerve Strickland defeated Adam Page in a Texas Death Match with some help from Brian Cage. In a tag team match in which it was the title shot that the Young Bucks had previously earned versus a disbandment of a team, the Golden Jets defeated the Young Bucks. So the way the match goes was this: that the Golden Jets, Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega, took on the Young Bucks, Matt, Nick Jackson. If the Golden Jets won, they would get the title shot Matt and Nick Jackson had recently earned for the AEW World Tag Team titles. If the Young Bucks had won, then Jericho and Omega could no longer team together. Jericho and Omega won, so they get the title shot at some point future against Big Bill and or whoever happens to be holding the tag titles at the time. MJF retained the AEW World Title over Jay White. So that's all that came down there. And also some Ring of Honor news before we start to get ready to close out here, get into this day in each history. Ronda Rousey recently made her debut in Ring of Honor this past Friday at a TV taping, where she teamed with her friend Marina Shafir. The two of them, Ronda Rousey also, came to back up Shafir at both a Lucha Underground show and a Wrestle Revolver show recently. In fact, she teamed with Marina Shafir to take on Ring of Honor Women's World Champion Athena and Billy Starks in a match at Wrestle Revolver. So that's all for the wrestling wrap up. So now, today being Monday, November 20th, 2022, let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. History! So with that, let me just go ahead and 96, 93, and 2003. Okay. So first off, we're going to head back 30 years ago today. On this date, 30 years ago today, WCW held its Battle Bowl pay-per-view. Now, this is a one-shot pay-per-view based on a match he had previously done at Starrcade 91 and 92. What the Battle Bowl was, it was basically an idea where wrestlers were randomly picked to form teams and to engage in tag team matchups. The winners of those tag team matches, so I'll just read, it's the private. So, Battle Bowl was a one-time professional wrestling pay-per-view produced by World Championship Wrestling. It was made up of tag team matches in which the partners were randomly drawn in a lethal lottery, and a team had to work together to advance to the Battle Bowl Royal. Previous versions of Battle Bowl had taken place at Starrcade 91 and 92. Took place on November 20th, 1993, from the Pensacola Civic Center in Pensacola, Florida. The last Battle Bowl was held in Slamboree, 96. So this was 1 year in which they decided to do the Battle Bowl as a full event as opposed to just, like a mat or set of matches. Ultimately, Vader won the Battle Bowl Battle Royal. That's essentially what happened. Vader and Cactus Jack had defeated Charlie Norris and Kane. Now, this is not Kane like Glenn Jacobs. This was okay. So this is still at a time when Harlem Heat had just entered WCW, and instead of going by their respective names of Stevie Ray and Booker T, they were going by the names Kane and Cole. So, but ultimately, Vader won the Battle Bowl, Battle Royal. Moving on now to 1996, which was 27 years ago today. On this date in 1996, the 90th issue of Archie's Double Digest magazine went on sale on this date back in 1996, 27 years ago today. Sold for $2.75 and was 192 pages. So the 90th issue of Archie's Double Digest magazine went on sale on this date back in 1996, 27 years ago. So with that, and finally, going back just 20 years ago, on this date in 2003, the final episode of Dexter's Laboratory, final issue of Dexter's Laboratory, aired on this date back in 2003. 20 years ago today, the final first run episode of Dexter's Laboratory aired on this date back in 2003. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Again, remember, we're only doing shows. We're only doing shows through Wednesday this week. So. So with that, I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.